Hi, my name is Wes Simpson. I am the moderator, actually one of the two moderators for today's session. And I am a co-chair of the RIST activity group within the VSF Video Services Forum. And I am also founder of LearnIPVideo.com. And if you're interested, please get in touch with me. My co-moderator is Kieran Cunha, who is the RIST Forum Director, and he is founder and CEO of Open Broadcast Systems. On our panel today, we have David Griggs, who is the Senior Product Manager for Media Services with AWS Elemental, and he's also been a contributor to the RIST Activity Group. We have Sergio Ammirata, who is a RIST Activity Group member and the Chief Science Officer for SipRadius. We have Ciro Noronha, who is the RIST Forum President and Executive Vice President of Engineering for Cobalt Digital. We have Paul Atwell, the RIST Forum Director and President of Media Transport Solutions. We have Rick Ackermans, who is the RIST Activity Group Chair. We call him Chief. He is Director of RF and Transmission Engineering for CBS. And last but certainly not least, we have Adi Rozenberg, who is a RIST Forum Director and who is the co-founder and CTO of VideoFlow. We're glad to have everybody here, and we'll get to your questions very shortly. So the first question is, does RIST run as an application on third-party hardware, or do we need to buy RIST encoders and decoders?
Some vendors do offer encoder decoders. Some of them are among these panel group. And it's quite easy to implement that yourself or buy a solution from a vendor that has that built in. It also can be available as a virtual machine. LibRIST open source library is also available to be integrated. And I'm sure that we will touch base on that as we go along.
Oh. Next question. Why are there so many competitors on the panel? Maybe a question for Ciro?
Yes, thank you. So I think we all benefit from interoperability. So it's what they're calling co-petition. It's a cooperation with competition. The better the protocol we design, the better we have for all of us. So it is useful for us to every one of us to come and bring their experience to have something that works, because since the customers have choice, they can just pick whatever is the best for that application, and they are not locked. So you have more chances actually to sell your product into different environments. So this is why we're all in there, and it's a good business decision for us.
Sure, thanks. Next question. What new traction is RIST getting? How fast is uptake growing? Maybe a question for David.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, certainly we at AWS, we're very excited about the potential for this protocol. We were early with our implementation. We have a simple profile running today in our product, and we've seen a lot of interest and a lot of excitement. And I think, the attraction that our customers see is that this is a standards-based approach. It's not proprietary. It doesn't belong to a single vendor. It belongs to all of us. And therefore, they have the confidence that, by investing in a protocol such as RIST, that they're seeing a truly multi-vendor interoperable approach. And that lends itself to a strong uptake. So we're very buoyant. We're very committed to the protocol and excited about the future.
Next question is the hot topic. Why would one choose RIST over SRT? Who wants to take that one?
I'll start. You want to go first, Adi, and I'll complete.
Well, it starts in the foundation. RIST is based on an RTP protocol, UDP-RTP, which was long been used in the industry, while SRT is the basis of that is UDT, which is a file transfer protocol. Reselecting RTP as the foundation allowed us to enjoy the benefit of many years of development in that field and to bring forth many applications, bonding, load share, out-of-band protection, retransmission throttling. All of those are based on RFCs and knowledge gained in the last 20 years. So when we came to develop the simple profile, that was very easy for us to take and enjoy the benefit and implement that and use that for many applications.
So completing that, well, building on that, yes, RIST was designed by a group of experts, not one guy in the back room. It's everybody came together and offered their experience to get best of class on everything. There's no compromise. You take RIST and you get best in class, and there are actual results to that. RIST works a lot better than SRT, a high packet loss, and it has a whole bunch of features that it doesn't have. It's actually more secure because of the authentication. It's got multi-link support, and it's simply a better protocol. When your packet loss goes up, RIST is going to do it for you a lot farther than SRT.
Thanks. One thing I should mention to those listening is there is a chat box and a Q&A box. If you have questions, please feel free to use the Q&A box, and I'll make sure they'll get answered during this webinar. The next question: how is RIST different to other video delivery protocols? Maybe a question for Adi.
Well, other protocols, good one. So there are many proprietary protocols out there. There is the known ZigZag protocol, SRT, some proprietary protocols being used in the Far East. The main differentiator is that RIST is using RTP. That is the basis of the differentiation. And just like I said before, we are using the RTP capabilities and enhancing on that, while others selected to opt with something proprietary, which normally will not be RTP based, so it will lack some of the functionalities that are inherent with the RTP. And for instance, things like timestamp, sequence numbers, forward error correction that is the norm in the industry, supporting SMPD 2022-7, and more and more. Also, just like Ciro said, when we developed the RIST, we took inputs from the industry. We looked what the industry needs and put it in the protocol. It's not like sitting in the dark room thinking, oh, I have a cool feature. It's talking and using experience. We went to ESPN, Fox, Charter. We have many participants who are clients of the technology. They bring the use case, and we try to find the best solution to solve their problem. And that is introduced into the RIST or will be put as a feature in the next profile document that will be published. And we will keeping every VTrans, we have a new interop and a new profile, and the advanced profile is coming. It has many additional capabilities that no other protocol to date has, and that's something which is very exciting to all of us.
Okay,
if I could,
want to chime in? Yeah, sorry, go on.
You know, just to expand a little bit on the theme of RTP, you know, RTP stands for real-time protocol. It's the basis for SMPTE ST2110, all the standards that are there. It's the basis for digital audio in the form of AES 67 and Dante audio. It's the basis for SMPTE ST 2022, which is MPEG transport stream over IP. It's extremely widely used in the modern media content creation market. So it's really a natural marriage between RIST using RTP and all these other media formats using RTP, simply because RTP was designed just for this purpose. High quality, synchronized, time-sensitive media transport.
Thanks a lot, Oz. So our next question is there an open source implementation for RIST? And maybe Sergio could take that.
Yes. Well, there's more than, just a single implementation, a single open source project. There's an entire ecosystem that is built around a library that's written in C called LibRIST. The ecosystem has a series of tools, sample applications, and different wrappers for you to use the library in other languages like Python, C++, etc.
Okay, thanks a lot, Sergio. And this LibRIST, what license does it have? Does it have an Apache 2.0 license or some other license?
It's one of the most liberal licenses, BSD Type 2, which means you can grab the source code, you can grab the library, use it in your project, modify it, and you're not forced or required to submit your changes back. You can keep them to yourself. The only requirement is that you put a copyright notice that you're using the library in your product.
Okay, thanks a lot, Sergio. And apart from VLC and Wireshark, what other open source applications are related to RIST in the future?
Well, we have a GStreamer has already implemented a simple profile. We have another library similar to LibRIST called UPipe that has simple profile on it. We have FFmpeg that we're in the process of adding support directly into it. Hopefully, it will be done before the next release. And other projects, other open source projects have grabbed the library and added support for RIST within their project using the library as well.
Okay, great. Hot topic at the moment is the cloud. Does anybody know of any cloud services using RIST for content distribution? And I'm sure David would love to answer this question.
Yeah, I mean, at AWS, we have our as part of the media services portfolio, we have a reliable TS service that I happen to be responsible for, and clearly we see RIST as a instrumental tool in the box to help our customers deliver transport stream, particularly around the world. So yeah, Media Connect is the service, and we're really thrilled that we are part of the early adoption of the RIST protocol.
So David, what versions of RIST? Well, I think you've already answered that. It's only simple profile today in the Media Connect.
That's right. Yes, but that said, yes, today we're fully compliant with simple profile, but we will be introducing main profile this year, and then of course we're super interested in advanced and how that pans out, and we'll definitely, I think we want to continue our RIST journey as part of AWS and Media Connect. Okay.
Hey, so Rick, do you see the RIST products and new standards threatening other products in the space, particularly the ones that are based on 3G, 4G, 5G mobile radios and bonding and all that stuff?
I don't think it necessarily threatens it. I think it's something that complements it. I certainly think that RIST can work well over those. RIST is agnostic as to the transport media, so it works well whatever you're doing. As we've done some other demos in the past, and as in the other versions of the presentation, we've showed that RIST can work in a hybrid environment, which includes 4G, 5G, and other internet transport methodologies.
Okay. So what about latency? One of the things that a lot of people care about in professional media transport is latency. Ciro, do you want to talk a little bit about what RIST does in terms of latency, how it performs?
Yes, thank you. The one thing I like to say is the more time you have to do a job, the better job you can do. So that applies to protocols too, right? So you can trade off latency for reliability. And the nice thing about RIST is that it gives you that knob. So if you have a very good network, you can bring down the latency. Essentially, it's not very difficult to understand. If all packets are making it, you don't need to retry a packet many times. So you don't need to allow time for that. And that's the nice thing about RIST. It will allow you to fine tune. So it's if you're comparing it to, let's say, SRT, it's not necessarily better or worse. RIST will give you the best possible solution for that network. And by the fact that you can, if you really need that delivery to be reliable, you can turn the crank down to higher latency and have more of the packets make it if the network goes bad.
And just building on that, Ciro, I mean, it is true that we didn't specify any particular algorithm for calculating buffer sizes or when to send ACK messages or things like that. That's all up to individual implementers in a RIST environment, correct?
Yes. So the approach that RIST has taken is similar to an approach done for, let's say, video encoders. We define the protocol and leave those details to the discretion of the implementer. So you can have two RIST implementations that can interoperate, that will work together well. One is a little bit better than the other, the same way as you have two encoders. One may be a little bit better than the other, even though both are produce a legal bit stream. So that's another nice thing about RIST. It interoperates, but the different vendors are still free to innovate.
I'd like to just add something there. We talked about the latency. Now, one thing to remember is that the latency is a product of the round trip time. So if you're using RIST in a local environment, such as for local news gathering and stuff, your round trip time is relatively low. So as a result, your latency is low. So in many applications where you're going locally, it's, in itself, it doesn't become an inherent issue.
All right, Kieran, do you want to take a couple questions?
Sure. So one of the important questions is regarding Zixi, a well-known protocol. And is RIST compatible with all current versions of Zixi? Maybe a question for Rick.
Well, the answer to all current versions, I would imagine no. They're incorporating RIST into their products in Zixi, but just if the question is all current products, I don't believe so, but hopefully somebody else would know better than I.
Anybody want to take that question?
I can try and take that. Zixi implemented simple RIST, which is available for, I believe, like almost a year. And now they are announcing their main profile compatibility. I have been involved in testing and doing interoperability tests with that, with their solution, which is another aspect of the RIST, is that we as vendors, even VideoFlow is a competing vendor to Zixi, we go and test our products once against the other to check interoperability to make sure that if I'm interoperable with Zixi and I'm interoperable with Ciro, then by that fact, Zixi will be interoperable with a Cobalt product and with the LibRIST and so on. We usually come together not only as a multi-vendor interoperability that happens before VTrans, but also we work together when releasing products to make sure that that interoperability is maintained so that product can be launched faster to the market. Both Zixi clients, my clients, and their prospective customers will know that they are interoperable, and that affects the industry and saves time and spread happiness to the world by doing so.
And I would just like to add to my previous statement. Sorry, you ask an engineer and you say the word all, and I focus on the word all. I'm sure it's compatible with many of their products. It may be compatible with most of their products. But as an engineer, I can't say yes to the word all.
So the next question is regarding NDI, and there's a particular, some of you may have read the Broadcast Bridge article about NDI and whether it can be transported over an unmanaged network. And the question is, can RIST support intact transporting NDI? And that's maybe a good question for Sergio.
Right. I mean, there's a couple of approaches that can be taken. I mean, NDI is a TCP-based protocol. So in order to transparently transport it, we need for the advanced profile to be finished. In the meanwhile, we're looking at an approach where we have a double gateway, a gateway that will convert the NDI feed into a pure UDP feed so that we can feed it through RIST, and then on the other side, convert it back to NDI.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Is there another approach?
Sorry, continue.
Is there another approach?
Right, the second approach is to convert it directly to UDP using their own SDKs. They have special tools now that you can extract the raw audio and video out of it without decompressing it. And once you have that, you can transmit raw audio and video over UDP, and then on the other side, grab that and using their tools as well, turning into NDI as well. Again.
Another approach, I will jump in. Another approach is to force the NDI to work with multicast, which they introduced in version 3 and above. So using a RIST tunnel, one can push the TCP management control and the status through the RIST tunnel, and then forward the multicast, which is to do with the video and audio, through the tunnel. And that gives you a error recovery because it's a high bandwidth, and the TCP is forwarded as it is. So that's another approach that people can make. I do believe that the next profile, just like Sergio said, with the ARQ tunnel, which is a part of the advanced profile, a RIST protocol will be able to tunnel everything, provide the ARQ, and that would be an easy solution to implement.
Great, thanks a lot. Great answers. The next question is there a RIST app for iPhone and or Android? That's maybe a good question for Rick.
It is something that we are strongly pursuing. You can use VLC, which is available for both of those right now for viewing, and in some cases even for sending. But the RIST Activity Group and the RIST Forum is strongly pursuing making an iPhone and Android app available.
Great. And so from a buyer's perspective, what is RIST and why should I mention to my vendors that they should support RIST? And it's a good question for Adi.
Oh, thank you. As being a vendor, when you're a buyer and you insist on RIST, that means you can buy, you can pick and choose. You are not tied up to a single vendor, a single technology. As a buyer, you can today select encoder with RIST, and tomorrow change that to another one with RIST. You will know that you don't have to change and forklift upgrade all the ecosystem that you build because the protocol isn't interoperable. So today you might use, let's say, a Cobalt encoder, and if you are not happy with that, you will take an harmonic encoder if they have RIST. So you can pick and choose, optimize your buying power, and enjoy the benefit of that. Buyers hate to be tied up to only one particular vendor, and this is the norm in our broadcast industry to date.
Great. And the next question is, how much does RIST cost to join? Why should I join? And that's a great question for Paul.
Whoops.
Maybe a technical difficulty slide here.
Yep, okay.
Does anybody else want to answer that question?
I'll take it. I'll take it, since I'm president of the thing, right? So as you remember from the first slide, there's the RIST activity group that's writing the specification, and there's the RIST forum. So if you want to participate in RIST activity group, your company needs to be a member of the VSF. So once you join the VSF, and there's some cost to that, you can participate on the design of RIST, if you will. Now, for the RIST forum, which is the marketing organization, there is no cost to join. We have 3 membership levels. The lowest level is free. And if you elect to join at one of the highest levels, you have a bit better product placement, and you have some influence of what's going on there. But you can join that for free if you want. And we actually welcome everybody. We would like you to join. And the reason why should I join? Get involved, right? If you join just the marketing organization, you know what's going on. You can, if you're making products, you can push your products there. And if you want to participate in the actual creation of the RIST specification, even as a user, just come in there and say, what do I need? What I want this and that for the specification. Come and join, tell us. we welcome all kinds of input.
Right. One of the current hot topics at the moment is 8K. And the question is, how does RIST support these 8K workflows? That's a good question for Adi.
Thank you, Kieran. 8K is a resolution, RIST carrying MPEG over TS over IP. So once you take the 8K, compress it to a transport stream, push it out as an RTP, RIST will be happy to convey that to your destination or distribute that to anywhere you want. So an 8K decoder, if it's available, maybe OBS has one, can decode that and push that to the mark and deliver that on the other end. So it's quite native to push any type of content.
Sure, great. It's already been covered, but I think we should reiterate. Who is behind RIST? And that's a question for Ciro.
Okay, the guys you're looking at are behind RIST. So the real, yeah, well, the RIST AG chairman's right there. So RIST was created in response to industry requests. It was more specifically ESPN because they had equipment from vendor A, equipment from vendor B, and they didn't talk. So they said they turned to the industry, basically the guys you're looking at that make equipment and say, fix it, right? So that's us. We all got together. It's in the context of the Video Services Forum. Is not a vendor thing. It's an industry organization that has both vendors and users, and that's what we created. And then on the side, there's the RIST Forum that does the marketing of it.
So if I could also jump in a little bit. So just so people understand a little bit more about the Video Services Forum, that group has been around for over 20 years. I'm one of the founding members of that. So yeah, I am kind of old. But the thing that's been interesting about watching the VSF over the years is we've developed a lot of technologies that have gone on to become widely accepted. SMPTE ST 2022 was born in the Pro MPEG forum, matured within the VSF, and then standardized in SMPTE. A lot of the work that went into creating SMPTE ST 2110 was foreshadowed in the Video Services Forum's technical recommendation 03. And we still see a lot of work going on in the VSF with respect to wide area network for ST 2110, and something that's just starting off and have a lot of activity is the ground to cloud, cloud to ground activity. So RIST is not an anomaly. The VSF has been working on this. The other thing I wanted to point out is that if you want to know what companies are involved, at the last interop, and let me see if I can get them all. So we had testing between vendors to show that vendor A could talk to vendor B. And the people that participated were Nevion, Evertz, Cobalt, SipRadius, VideoFlow, Zixi. Let's see, who else? Who am I missing? We had a Libris. What's that?
Cobalt.
I said Cobalt.
NetInsight.
That was the one I was looking for. QVidium as well. So there's a lot of different companies bringing technology, and they all play nicely together.
Great, thanks a lot, Wes. Just to reiterate, there is a Q&A box in Zoom, so if you do have any questions, please feel free to answer, and we'll make sure that this group of expert panelists can share their thoughts. I'll merge the next two questions. What is the difference between RIST and Zixi, and what is the difference between RIST and SRT? That's a good question for Ciro, maybe.
Okay, so we talked a lot about RIST and SRT. Ajay gave a good technical description of RIST and SRT. SRT was something that was developed by Haivision, which, by the way, is member of the RIST forum and was part of Simple Profile. And that that's the pedigree of the thing. Now, Zixi is also another company that has a proprietary protocol for transport over the internet and is a very active member of the RIST AG. So if you're Zixi licensee, if you're taking Zixi, you now have a choice of running the proprietary protocol and or RIST. So what RIST is bringing to you is interoperability with no compromises.
Yeah, that's great, Ciro. It's great to see that so many organizations who you would think are competitors and wouldn't talk to each other can come to RIST and be part of a group that can develop a new protocol. A question for Rick. What are the main technical advantages of RIST?
Well, the main technical advantage of RIST is its interoperability. For sending video over the internet, there are a lot of proprietary formats that work quite well. Some of them represented by people here, but they don't interoperate. RIST gives you interoperability, so you can have a sender made by one manufacturer and a receiver made by another, and that's the strong point of RIST: the fact that the equipment will interoperate with other vendors.
There is a question from the floor. It's a question for Wes. Is there any online training available that covers RIST?
As a matter of fact, that's one of the things that I've been working on for the past couple of months, and planning to go live on September 1st. I'm developing a course that covers RIST, SRT, and RTMP technology, and you can access it at learnipvideo.org. And if anybody is interested, send me an email and I'll give you a nice discount coupon. But yeah, I'm planning to have that course up and running in a nutshell on September 1st.
Great, thanks a lot. Next question. What is the RIST AG, RIST activity group working on next? It's a question for Rick.
Well, the next thing we're working on, as was shown in the chart earlier, is the advanced profile. And that will add a lot of additional functionality, which is still under development, so it's subject to change. We are looking at some functionality too to allow for a hybrid satellite and terrestrial implementation of RIST. Many things in the satellite industry will be changing because of some reuse of the C-band spectrum. And so many folks are looking at solutions, possibly having to go to KU or KA band, which is subject to rain fade. So we're looking at what options there are to allow that to help alleviate people's fears of using satellite links that don't work in bad weather.
Great.
Can I add to that?
Yeah, sure. Feel free, Adi.
So not only that we are doing a hybrid satellite, we already mentioned that ARQ tunnel to allow to push any type of traffic to a RIST tunnel and apply protection, ARQ protection on that. So that can be TCP, UDP, any traffic, which is not a simple profile, which is what we do today. We will have dynamic configuration. We're talking about adaptivity, adapting the source to the network conditions. For those who don't want to implement the whole scope, we are thinking of adding a VPN capability to simplify connectivity. We're talking about a relay capability in the cloud relay that one will be able to push to the cloud or connect through a single point, multiple clients with basically punching through firewalls and simplifying the connections for people, but also to use that to maybe a part of the hybrid satellite to distribute, sending one sender and a distribution to multitude of those. So yeah, there are many things that are coming from the industry. Those are things that we had to build the basis, a foundation, and now we are adding those to the advanced profile. And hopefully by VTrans next year, physical or virtual VTrans will be able to showcase that.
Oh, that's great, Adi. Great that you've talked about the timeline as well. So let's go back to today. Who is using RIST today? And let's see if Rick could answer that question.
Well, RIST is being used by many of the people who buy the products that are here. It's being used for many applications of the AWS cloud. And so it is being widely used and adopted. The manufacturers can speak better as to actually who's using it than I can. And quite frankly, there may be a lot of people out there who are using it who may not even know they're using it. They know, hey, I bought these boxes. They send pictures. They work. Hey, I'm doing interviews. In fact, a lot of people have done a lot of that over the last 5 months who've had to run out and buy product in desperation because of all the work at home that's going on. So there actually are probably numerous users out there who are using RIST who have no idea what's in the box.
So real quick, Paul, weren't you involved with some projects that you can talk about publicly? Oh, sorry, no audio, Paul. Don't know what's happening.
The same.
Yeah.
Can I mention some?
Yeah.
Sure.
So we have our moderator. His products are feeding one of the Britain's biggest providers, news groups. This has been running for more than a year, I believe. There are TV stations in the US using RIST for their backup, some to do news gathering, some to do STL applications. RIST is being used to backup main feeds cross Atlantic by multiple vendors. There are installations that we made public as a RIST forum in our webinars, mentioning the likes of Mencken out of Nashville, Tennessee. They've been using RIST from April 2018, just as a simple profile came. They immediately embraced that. Other stations in the East Coast, in the US East Coast, are using that. There are the installations in the Far East, going down even to Australia using RIST today. Also in Singapore, there are several RIST-based delivery services to date, and those are growing on a daily basis. I have to mention also Africa. There are some service operators that are embracing RIST as a replacement for its professional capabilities, and they change from a proprietary vendor to a full RIST solution to enjoy the fruits of that work.
Yeah, I would echo what Adi said, and at least from my personal experience of deploying RIST in the field, and in the Far East in particular, the key reason for using RIST was to be able to use multiple ISPs at the same time. This is a key requirement for professional video, and something that I think pretty much all other sort of open protocols don't support. Is something that RIST, it's a key requirement in many territories, as there can be cable cuts, other ISP issues.
Yeah, survivability is the name of the game when you're talking about high quality contribution video. No doubt about it.
Yeah, definitely. Do we dare see if Paul is coming back, or if not,
Paul,
someone else?
you want to give us an audio check, Paul?
Testing 1 2.
Yeah. No, no, we can see your lips moving.
We can see your lips, but no audio. Well, so the next question is,
Paul, do you know sign language? Oh, all right.
American or European sign language.
Yeah.
The next question is, what if my company has a mix of unrelated brands of hardware? Can RIST still be applied? And does anybody want to answer that?
I can take that.
Yeah, so plenty of gateway manufacturers in the room. So
yeah, so I'm a gateway manufacturer, but we can maybe we also have Net Inside that does gateways, and also Zigzag. With a gateway, you can basically.
Okay, you're going to define a gateway. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, a gateway is a device that take ASI, IP, UDP, RTP on one end and outputs RIST on the other end, and vice versa on the receiver side. So a gateway like that can be tied up to multitude of encoders, decoders, multiplexers, inhale that feed and send out to the other side. One of the benefits of RIST that we did not discuss is the bidirectional capability. So everything can be tied up to a single tunnel going to the destination, sending back and forth, so you have a bidirectional capability. It also gives you the joy of in-band management, so one can control a remote device through a RIST tunnel. For instance, in the last 5 months, we have installations with RIST that are doing PTZ control using the RIST tunnel, pushing a TCP traffic to control remote PTZ cameras. So if you have a vendor with legacy equipment or proprietary equipment, but most of them are supporting UDP, RTP, ASI, a gateway device is a perfect solution to take those feeds in, aggregate them, send them to the other side, and then reaggregate that and egress that to the destination via UDP, RTP, ASI. And as I said, VideoFlow has a solution. One can build such a thing if you don't want to buy a vendor solution. Use a LibRIST, which can take a UDP, RTP, push that to the other side, develop the application yourself. If you don't know how to do that, there are consultants out there and integrators, Atwell being one of them, and many other members of the RIST forum that you can find that can guide you and help you selecting the right product for the job.
Now, if I may add to that a little bit, the gateway that Adi refers to, a gateway device, it doesn't necessarily need to be a piece of hardware. Most vendors, Adi, SipRadius, VideoFlow, SipRadius, offer a virtualized version of the same gateway. You can, in today's world, you have your own VM farms. Just spin up a VM, put the gateway software for vendor A, vendor B, and suddenly all this equipment that you have laying around becomes RIST enabled.
I want to add to that because we have David with us. Many vendors that wanted to reach AWS Media Connect services looked for a solution, and RIST, with RIST proposal, they can take a gateway, don't have to have a specific code or upgrade their devices. They can take a gateway, connect to it to Media Connect services for contribution or distribution, and that is a perfect vessel for doing that.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Adi. We see ourselves as kind of the meat between the sandwich there, and we have great vendors providing gateway products on both the encoding and decoding side. And to your point, Sergio, that could be true decoding. It could also just be a multicast conversion, right? Back to keeping it in the compressed domain, taking it back to multicast. There's a lot of options there. ASI, SDI, 2110 out. But yeah, like from our perspective, we just want to be able to provide a sort of connectivity between those products and offer an alternative to the public internet there that allows you to drive down those ARQ buffers to a lower latency for some of those more timing sensitive workflows.
Right. And so Adi, you mentioned in-band control. Is in-band control available only on main profile?
Well, currently, yes. In-band control is basically allowing to push any type of traffic in an IP, in a full IP datagram, a full packet, whether it's a UDP, TCP, through a main tunnel. This is available in the RIST protocol, and this is being used heavily with my products. I know that Atwell is using that in his installations, using in-band controlling remote devices by way of in-band management, controlling PTZ cameras, third-party equipment. That's a perfect solution for doing so. The in-band, it doesn't have to be also for management. It can be pushing audio, TCP-based audio, HTTP, SSH through a one tunnel that simplifies things for the IT people. It simplifies the things for the broadcast people. And that's one of the gains of having input from the industry of what they need. Basically not needing multiple tunnels or VPNs to complete one job.
Great. Next question. Does RIST have any sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, we're kind of bumping up against our promised time limit. We were going to try to keep this to around 45 minutes or so, or maybe a little bit longer. I was just going to say that what Adi was just talking about was a good segue into the RIST roadmap here. As we move, from simple profile, we've talked about that a lot. Main profile, and again, both of those specs are available on the VSF.TV website. And then the advanced profile, even better tunneling, some common VPN applications. And one of the things that I'm really excited about is decoder synchronization. So I could have multiple decoders at different places around the globe, literally, that are displaying their video content in a synchronized manner. So anyhow, Kieran, if you wanted to ask one more question, that's fine. I'm sorry to jump in.
It's okay, no problem. The next question is, does RIST have any congestion detection or congestion control? This is obviously an important issue right now on the congested internet. Adi, you want to take that question?
Yeah, thank you. We did not specify one congestion control. We actually left it to the implementer to decide how to do that, thinking that there are many flavors of congestion control, and it will be up to the sender to decide how to mitigate that. This is something that we allow people to innovate and make a better product. So yeah, that's the thing that we allowed people to implement. And like say, VideoFlow has its own flavors, but we will, as long as we are interoperable and the basic protocol is working, then that is something that shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah,
Okay.
if I may add, I know we are almost out of time, but that's one of the places where you can innovate. You manage your retransmissions, how you manage that retransmission, when do you send it, how much do you send it, and that's one of the differences.
So,
Great.
so Paul, did you want to take us through some of these places where people can get more information?
If my audio is working now, I will.
Yes, you
Okay,
are.
great.
We can hear you.
Okay. So there's a variety of web pages where people can pick up information. The technical references can be picked up on the Video Services Forum website at www.vsf.tv. There's a download section. Also at the RIST forum at rist.tv. And there's several videos available on our YouTube channel. Just go to youtube.com. And there's also RIST demos available up on the YouTube channel as well.
So we always welcome people to send in their questions. If you have any technical concerns, if you just want to figure out, how to get some more information about RIST, just send us an email at info@rist.tv, and we monitor that mailbox and look for things. So I did want to say thanks to everybody that's on the panel today. We had a really good crew. So thank you to Sergio. Thank you to Ciro. Thanks, Kieran. Thanks, Rick. Thank you, Paul. We're glad you could talk. Thank you to David, and thank you to Adi. I think this was a great session, and we really appreciate everybody's time for joining in today. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Wes, as well. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, Wes. Thanks for doing the moderating.
Guys.
All right.
Thank you,
pleasure.
Kieran, for staying that early.